Okay, I declare a quorum. I'm going to call the City of Groton Special Committee of the whole meeting for Monday, May 14th, 2018 to order. Clerk Patrick, please call the roll.
Present are Mayor Keith Hedrick, Councilors Jill Rusk, Jamal Beckford, Stephen Sheffield, Leonard Bickel, Rashad Carter, Finance Director Rod Newhouse, Clerk Deborah Patrick, excused as Deputy Mayor Lawrence Garrish.
Okay, thank you. Yes, he had said last week that he wouldn't be here. So, the referral is $695, which is the FY19 Budget Discussion / review. Let's see, how do we want to start this? We really, I guess I'll open up the floor to the councilors to see if there are any questions right off the bat. And then if not, then the finance director and I will talk a little bit to maybe stir some questions. Any questions? The challenge.
He may already say something that answers the question.
Right.
Okay.
Why don't you start?
Okay, fine. The challenge that we have, well, I'll let you go through. Just talk about the challenge and what we identified and why we're doing this today.
So in the past few years, since I've been here doing the budget anyway, the change after the BAA has always been very small. It's been a minimal dollar amount, so it really hasn't affected the mayor's budget with the projection of the mill rate. And then when there are changes that are made by council, to expenditure sides, we revamp and look at that BAA changes and kind of do all the changes at once. Going into right now, there hasn't been any changes on the expenditure side. However, the adjustment to assessments after BAA, there was a decrease of $20 million, which resulted in a tax shortfall of just over 90,000 using the 4.5 mil calculation. So there's a couple of different options and things. So we know going in right now that we have a shortfall of 90,000 in taxes. So it only makes sense to correct it. If there's no change to any of the numbers in the budget, the change that we would have to make would change the mill from a 4.5 to a 4.58 to make up that shortfall, which that equates to $16 on $200,000 of assessments, just to kind of put it into tax numbers.
I'm sorry, 16 on?
$16 on a $200,000 assessment.
Thank you.
Or $8 per 100, is that? So,
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So just to kind of give you an idea as to what that means for the average household. If there's other questions or other items that you want to look at, we can go that route, but that's kind of where we're at right now. And as you're all aware, your budget will be approved next Monday. So we just kind of wanted to make sure everybody was where they were and we weren't scrambling next Monday to try to answer questions that we may not have answers to right at that point in time.
Right. Just want to remind you of what the charter states. It says, at a duly called meeting of the mayor and council to be held no later than the third Monday of May, the council shall approve the budget. The council shall have the authority to revise the proposed budget by increasing or decreasing the amount in budget line items. For purposes of this article, the term budget category shall mean the various proposed appropriations for various departments and expenditures as contained in the published notice of the annual budget meeting. For purpose of this article, the term budget line items shall mean the detailed itemization of all expenditures within budget categories. If no budget is approved by the council, the mayor's original proposed budget shall be submitted to the electors and qualified citizens of the city for their approval at the annual city budget meeting. So that's the text of the charter that covers me presenting the budget to you next week. Councilor Rice.
So if we don't approve this, it would go to the 4.5 though.
Correct.
Which means we would have a shortfall, which means we would have to find ways to cut.
Well, you would have to find ways. There's two things you could do. You could either cut something. You could lower the decrease, or meaning
Range.
go from, instead of 4.5, go to 4.58, combination of the above. I don't know if you could also find revenue, but municipalities aren't very good about finding revenue, particularly within a given year. If you could, for lack of a better term, poke and hope and let it go and see if somebody underspends, and if they underspend, then they got extra money that you could put for that. But I don't think that's not a sound fiscal strategy that neither the finance director nor I would recommend for you. We would want to account for that $90,000 some way, right? I mean, that makes sense, right?
Right, in essence, you would be, if you left it the way it was, you'd be approving a budget knowing that there's a $90,000 shortfall in tax revenue coming in, that you're gonna be short, barring the full collection.
Councilor Rusk.
So instead of decreasing the mill rate, 0.72, we'd be down to 0.67. And what does that mean, dollars and cents? Per $200,000 house?
You said $16, right?
No, that was.
No, that was for the 0.8.
0.08 or 0.8?
That was for the 0.08,
Yeah.
is the 16. So the right now, the 4.5 is $900 in taxes. So you wanted to know
The
just
decrease, the 0.64, so like, for an average $200,000 house, what does that mean in less? How much less is that in taxes? Let me say this in English.
Would that be this, oh, never mind, you're actually gonna calculate it, I was gonna do it easy. 72 minus 16.
Yeah, 56.
Or per 100,000, I'm sorry, whichever way is
Well,
easiest.
I know, but I
Right.
did it, you're right, do it in your head.
it's 200. So it's gonna be a little under 200.
Little
you're-
under 200 for
Because you're at 200 is a
$200,000?
mill, so you're gonna be
Okay.
under 200,000. Yes, that brings it down to.
Thank you.
That's the 4.5 or the 4.58?
0.64, 4.58.
4.5. That still keeps us at the manning level, staffing level, rather, excuse me. Still keeps us at the staffing level. We still lower taxes this year. It has not changed my strategy for next year, which is to keep taxes either level or to lower them next year, because one of the things that we did was we did an estimated 3% increase in expenses, and then that was based on mathematical average of the past, plus the $226,000 that was a one-time loss in revenue this year will come back next year. So with those things, we should either at a minimum have a zero, or best case, we actually could lower taxes a little bit again. That's based on the current
That's
estimate.
the best
Say again?
scenario. That's the best case scenario.
Yep. Now, again, we'll put the caveat in there that I'll have to see what the grand list does, and you don't know if there's gonna be any crazy increases in insurances or
Yeah.
things like that. I mean, that's, if you go back to the beginning of this year, we had a $460,000 increase in insurance and pensions, and then the $226,000 loss of revenue. Those things together put us around $700,000 bogey in the very beginning that we had to make up. So, and that's just part of running a business. And the town had similar issues. Every town around here had similar issues with increases. Any other questions or comments?
Oh, go ahead, Stephen.
Councilor
All right,
Sheffield?
so our final figure, if we compensate this 90,000, would be 4.58 would be the mills at that rate, or what is the percentage gain of the mill rate with this 90,000? Maybe Ron will be the percentage increase to compensate that? Is that the,
Nah, just say that one more time.
would be, how much higher than we originally budgeted the mill rate for? How much?
The
What was the original figure?
4.5.
And then it'll be now
4.58.
Okay.
So,
Increase by point, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Not
yeah.
So it's
0.8.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's 0.08 increase.
Right.
Okay.
That's
from
correct.
the
There we
original
go.
proposal.
Yeah.
Over the planned rate, but it's still
That's
a
correct.
decrease from
It's
last
still a
year's.
decrease.
Right,
That's
still an
right.
increase
So
from
this
last
is
year.
just the up from the plan rate.
This year's mill rate is 5.22, and it will go to 4.58 under this latest,
Wait, say that
Which
last number one more time?
4.58,
Thank you.
4.58,
which is still lower than last year,
Right,
correct.
but just above what we had originally planned.
right, a 5, or
Right.
4.5, or 4.5.
Right. Councilor Rusk?
I just want to say thank you to everybody for really trying hard to keep their budget low this year. I think it's important that we do start making plans for long-term purchases that we need to look at that we haven't been able to do in the last couple of years. So unfortunately, the things that we could cut more will turn around and get us later. So I think that this is a good budget and that we should approve it.
One of the things that Ron and I are trying to do along with the staff is to forecast 3 and 5 years down the road. I'm trying to take care of infrastructure, which is important. We're also, I have a new initiative looking at vehicles, meaning vehicle maintenance is one side of it, and then vehicle replacement is the other side of it, because I want to be able to forecast. I have a data call out for all my vehicles and what the mileage is, what the mileage and the year of the vehicle. And I've also asked the department heads to tell me what metric or what do they use to determine replacement. So we're going to come up with a global kind of thing because we're in different places. I want to make sure that we're uniform pretty much across the board as best as we can be, so that we can, one, look at saving money, but two, be efficient in the way that we handle our vehicles. For example, police vehicles tend to have a replacement criteria of about 100,000 miles. That's what the town uses. When I talked to Chief Spellman, that's what we currently use as well. So, but there are some vehicles that we have that it's not just based on mileage or based on the year, it's based on run times. Because some of our larger vehicles like garbage trucks and fire trucks and things like that, it's based on, because not garbage trucks, but fire trucks and police vehicles idle. So there's runtime on the motor that you don't that you won't see in one in age and two in transit miles. So those are the kind of things that we got to take into consideration as well. Any other questions or comments? There was a hand. Councilor Depot, do you have a question?
No, I did not.
Okay. And your question was answered?
Yes,
Councilor?
well said.
Any other questions or comments?
I think committee-wise, just based off of different committees, you had said that it is difficult. What's it is difficult to try to gain revenue or try to figure out how to gain revenue. I think that's something that we need to look at. It's not, and I'm not talking as far as city residents, but we have a lot of residents that aren't from here that come into the city, and I think we need to look at some certain ways that we can gain some revenue. It's about time.
I do not disagree with you. Every day, we start with 10,000 people, we go to about 30,000 people, and then we're back to 10,000.
Yep.
They're in and out. I'm trying to figure out how to keep them here, how to get them to spend money here. That's all part of economic development. I had a discussion with my new economic development specialist today. I'm going to have a meeting with her later this week, and we're going to take she and Barbara and I are going to take a tour of the city and talk about the different areas in the city. She's from this area, but I want to, until you actually tour the city at the ground level and see it and get it here, feel it here, then you can start thinking about what are we going to do for economic development and those kind of things. And that impacts the grand list. So, any other questions or comments? Okay, we have no executive session, and I will take a motion for adjournment.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. We are adjourned.